you may inadvertently not see a situation for what it is.
Right. It's the human factor.
It's a human factor.
It's a human factor with everybody.
And that's with everybody. That's with a caseworker, a social worker, a mental health worker. Sometimes,
how about a school official?
A school official?
School official says these are good kids. They're good kids. They're trying to get ahead.
School officials always believe the kids are good, and they always believe they're redeemable, and they have good qualities in them. However, they fail to see that a lot of the kids a lot of these kids who commit these crimes are sociopaths, so they present an image as though they're very likable and they're, we can relate to this kid, but a lot of times it's a false sense of security that a sociopath will put up. So you put your guard down. That's what Crumbly.
Yeah, Crumbly.
Yeah, he put them in a false sense of security, and they're like, oh, he's just a nice little kid. And the minute he walked out the door, all hell, broke.
The sociopath, though, not psychopath.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I always thought I thought it was a question of doing harm.
Psychopath.
Psychopath wants to do harm.
Sociopath, same thing.
Same thing.
Psychopath just sounds a lot more evil. But when you're talking criminology, it's a sociopath. No empathy, no feeling, no compassion, nothing.
I've known women like that.
They got, stone cold blood going through their system, brother.
I have dated those women.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so there is a strategy in place.
Yeah, it's threat assessment, risk management.
And by protecting us, I mean parents, kids, obviously. Kids, starting with the kids, teachers, parents, the community at large.
Absolutely.
We're all supposed to be protected by this system that's in place.
Absolutely. It's supposed to work. It's supposed to work in such a way that groups of people will get together and they will discuss certain situations that are happening in the school. I think we're kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves on this one.
Okay.
First we kind of want to define what a threat is and what risk is.
Okay.
Just to keep it real simple.
I always thought define a threat is like pornography. You know it when you feel it.
So basically
see it.
That's a Supreme Court definition. We know pornography when we see it. You can't really define it. So a threat can be a very vague type of a situation. Like over the weekend, there was a school shooting challenge that was placed on TikTok.
This was our third thing.
Yeah. So that was a threat.
See what I mean about his fake laugh?
I think it's pretty good.
He sounds like a what do you call it? A ventriloquist clown.
Well, he is a ventriloquist.
Laughing after the murder of his who the ventriloquist clown?
Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
What?
I worked with Jeff Dunham.
You did.
You know what he said once that I thought was really interesting? He said, after they said, hey, nice job, Jeff. He said, yeah. He goes, we were good tonight. And I don't think he was talking about me and him. I think he was talking about him and the puppets.
Yeah.
So, no, good guy.
So the vague threat was on TikTok in the past week. It's a school shooting challenge.
Yes. And this is the third thing we were going to talk about. That was a big thing. Kids who went to school, and I heard from three different teacher and two students at different high schools in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, and they all said the attendance in class was significantly reduced, like half.
Yeah, because the kids are smart.
The COVID's coming around, so and
there was law enforcement.
I
know in my community I saw 3 police cruisers in front of the high school.
Yeah, smart.
Because it's such a vague threat that it was just placed on social media. They don't know who did the initial threat, so it was vague. So it's anywhere in the country. And you can sit there, you can use it the same way. It's the same way as a terrorist group will do a vague threat.
Yeah.
A terrorist leader or a terrorist organization will put out there on the internet, death to America, Allah Akbar. And guess what? There's always some crazy nut who's going to hear that or read that threat, and they're going to act on it. So what they have is they're worried about who's going to act on it. Are they going to act in Florida, in California, in Texas?
Right.
You don't know. It's so vague. You don't know where it is.
And it spreads fear. But it also, and this is we saw the Punch a Teacher challenge.
Yeah, Punch a Teacher challenge.
And we saw kids
punch
act
teachers
on it, and they would videotape it like idiots.
Yep.
And hopefully they would all be punished to the full extent of the law. But this is the thing.
Nathan's got something.
I'm going to let you finish your point, but then I just have 2 things I want to
It's an emotional contagion that's actually put into action which is somebody says, let's all blank, and then somebody does it. And it's more than one person. There are people all over the place, which means there's fear, there's resources. If I was gonna pull a bank job, this would be the perfect time to pull a bank job.
Oh yeah,
because I would
it's a
get
distraction.
Down. Yeah, I would bring my henchmen. Yeah. I would dress up in a top hat and some colorful costume, and I would go do a bank job. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Nathan.
No, all good. I'm not going to say anything smart, but there are just two things that came into my head.
I know you're not going to say anything smart because you were talking.
School shooting challenge. I find that funny because the word challenge suggests that the act would be difficult to do. As we can see, it's really not that hard to shoot.
No, it's not.
It happens so often. It's just like, no, this seems pretty easy to do. Yeah. There's no challenge here. Second thing I wanted to say was, I remember one time in high school, we had 2 bomb threats, like, come in. The first one was like kids were like talking like at like lunch or something, like said something about a pipe bomb or whatever. And then the next day at school, they're like, fuck, no one come to school today. Everyone's going to leave. We're going to bring the cops in. But then a couple days later, there was another threat. I guess it was like just an automated voice message that just went to like a bunch of schools in the area that were just like, we're going to blow up this fucking school. But this time, instead of being like, this is a dangerous situation, whether it's a real threat or not, let the kids leave. Instead, we sat in the fucking classrooms for like 2 hours before they were like, that's probably bullshit. Send them to their next class. Oh. And then the rest of the day, everyone in the school is just like, why are we still here? Yeah. I don't care if it was fake or not. Let us go home.
Yeah. Well, you know why? It's because think about it. It'd be all the time. I mean,
yeah, it could be all the time.
Back in the day when I was a young man,
that's not our fucking problem. You guys fix this shit. I'm just trying to get to gym class without getting shot.
Can you imagine being when I was a kid, and probably I don't know, maybe when you were a kid too.
Bomb threats, yeah.
You could get bomb threats all the time. Somebody had a test they didn't want to take. Boom, bomb threat, pull a firebox. But bomb threat was the big one.
There's a difference. Like I said, the vague threat was what was on TikTok, but a direct threat is more of. If someone put on TikTok, there's going to be a school shooting in the Texas area on Friday, December, whatever.
Well, somebody puts on
2 in the afternoon.
Somebody puts on Facebook, I want to. Here are some kids I want to kill at my school.
Yeah, that's a direct threat and is handled a lot differently. And now you can actually charge someone if you can find out who originated that threat. A vague threat is difficult.
I just want to get back to my bomb threat thing.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being the first kid who called in a bomb threat after the invention of Star 69?
Oh, Star 69. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine? That must have been.
Oh, you know,
were you in the force?
I was working in the schools. Yes, we had that. And that's all they did was do Star 69. I forgot all about that. The ladies at the secretaries, all she did was press Star 69, and you've reached the Rattigan house.
Beautiful.
It must have been little Dave.
No, it was probably one of my sisters.
I forgot all about that. That's funny. Star 69. Absolutely.
Yeah. You must have had some kids just their minds must have been blown as the cops arrived at their door.
Yeah, last number dialed. Yeah, absolutely.
That's just anyway. So back to this. So we're no longer in that time. We've all gotten more sophisticated, and so who makes the assessment?
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna go to high and low risk, and then we're gonna get to the assessment team.
Okay.
Who's supposed to make the assessment?
Okay. So a direct threat is considered a high-risk threat.
And a vague threat would be kind of a lower risk. But when you go to high risk, okay, a high-risk situation would be 15-year-old kid tells his classmate, 15-year-old kid tells Nathan, hey, Nathan, guess what? On Tuesday, I'm coming into the school, and I'm going to shoot it up, so don't come to school.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I knew we were good friends. Good luck.
Now you look at that kid, and you say, okay.
Good luck.
His parents have weapons in the house.
Yeah.
He has some known mental health type issues. He's a kid that's isolated from the school community. He's had discipline problems before. Yep. So a kid like that, with all those variables in his background, would be considered a high threat, meaning, yeah, that kid could do that. In contrast to that, 11-year-old kid in the playground, or even how about a 9-year-old kid in the playground says, you know something, Mrs. Smith pissed me off. Tomorrow I'm going to come in and shoot her. All right.
That's a pretty direct threat.
It is a direct threat.
I mean,
but now you would look at the kid and you would check his background and are there any weapons in the house. It's definitely a threat. It would be a high level threat, but it's a little bit lower, all right, than what Nathan dealt with. So there's different variables associated with high and low level threats, all right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to give you an example of a kid that when I was working in the school, never made a threat. He never made a threat, but he was considered a high risk. He was a kid, 18-year-old kid, came into the school, end of the school year. So he had like 3 months to go. Okay. And he came in, and I saw him walking the halls. And I go, this kid don't belong here. His attire, the way he was dressed, was very similar to gangs from the Worcester, Massachusetts area.
Okay.
So I walked up to him. I said, hey, I'm the school resource officer. Who are you? He goes, my name's Hector, whatever his name was. I go, are you from Worcester? And he goes, yeah, how'd you know I was from Worcester? I said, well, I've dealt with kids, gang members from Worcester, and you guys all dress the same. And he said, well, I'm not in a gang, and he went on his way. So I got his name, and I called Worcester PD, and he was a kid who had just gotten released from DYS, Department of Youth Services, because when he was 13 years old, he was an aspiring gang member.
Yeah.
And the older gang members brought him to a park or a location in Worcester, Massachusetts. 13-year-old kid walked out of the car and shot 3 rival gang members. He didn't kill them. They survived, but this 13-year-old kid, I'll call Hector, did 5 years in juvenile corrections. He got out, and the Department of Youth Services and the Department of Social Services slipped him into the high school, and he was just going to be there for 3 months and graduate. So
and they moved him into a high school,
just a high school
outside the Worcester area.
North Shore area.
Did they relocate the kid?
Yeah, they relocated. They put him in a halfway house.
Oh, a halfway house. Okay,
halfway house, and they just put him in the high school. They said, hey, kids, shut your mouth. You got 3 months. You're going to get your high school diploma from this high school. Just be quiet.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he wasn't able to pass through the cracks. I recognized him through his dress, and I'm not saying that was because of me, but he didn't fit in to begin with. His demeanor and his posture and everything in between just wasn't fitting right. So we spoke to that Worcester Police Department, and they said, yeah, that's who he is. So now we have a kid who's made no threat. Yeah. But he's a high-risk kid.
Yeah.
He's as high as they come. He's already shot 3 people.
Yeah.
Now you have all this.
Now, so you're saying that by shooting 3 people previously, you put your head together with the other members of the police department
and the school people, and we're like, hey, this kid is what, Nathan? He's
high risk.
He's high risk.
Wow. You guys, and how many people met for this high level decision making?
It really wasn't even one. It was myself and another member of the police department.
And here's the other thing that I think is really interesting about this. I get it. Once you know that boom. So
you didn't have to have a meeting,
right?
We were going to inform them that this is what he is, and we might want to get him out of the school, but they decided to let him stay in.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
And again, it goes to the idea of the redeemable kid.
Yeah.
If nobody takes the high risk kid. But of course, nobody else is going to tell you because of laws that protect the privacy of the individual.
That's the big issue.
Yeah, and that is we had talked about this before, a story that I had done years ago. I was a kid in the juvie system, or not the juvenile system, the foster system. And he had been placed, and this is a long time ago, and the incident happened a long time before that. But it was a kid who was placed in the foster system with a foster family. It was a man who was, I think, divorced, and his boys, and he would take in fostering other boys, and nobody told him that the kid he was fostering had an issue with arson, and they had a teenage fight over an insult from one of the biological sons, and the man and his girlfriend went out for the evening, and when they came back, their house was in flames. One of the kids was killed. The other kid was in a vegetative state for years afterwards, and the kid who set the fire, foster kid, wound up in jail, tried as an adult.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a tragedy.
That's
all
a
the
big
way
thing.
around.
That's you can't do an appropriate threat assessment or risk management process without information.
Yeah.
You have to have some background information, and I would think that a arsonist, because I've dealt with arsonists, because we had young individuals in the units I worked at, they were arsonists, and that was That was a big, when their little paperwork came in, you had 2 kids. You had the arsonist and the sex offenders, a little red marker on their